The Board of Public Works to order on September 22, 2023. Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Dodges?
Here.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Here.
Commissioner Showman? Here.
Our first item is to approve the agenda. Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Oh, and excuse me. We also have the Alderman at Large, Mike O'Brien, our liaison here.
Has nothing to do with the way it came.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Well, we didn't have it passed.
Oh, okay, sorry. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of August 24, 2023.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we have public comment. Is there anybody who would like to address the Board of Public Works?
Hi, good afternoon. Alex Camo, Ward 6 Alderman. I just wanted to speak to you briefly in support of your lighting system upgrade at Sergeant Ave Playground. We did a similar project to this earlier in the year at Labine Park. It's a system similar in scope with an all-LED system, remote control. It's just a really good system so far at Labine. We've had a lot of success with it. My goal, if I could predict 20 years in the future, we'd have this system at every park in the city. So I'm glad to see that it's before you tonight at Sergeant Ave. Alderman Klee, Alderman Karen, and myself worked pretty hard to get the funding secured for this. So hopefully I look forward to your support of the project later in your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Alderman Klee, Ward 3. I also want to just basically echo what my colleague from Ward 6 had said as well. It's a much needed, I think there's danger currently at the park there where people can get hurt and so on. And anybody who goes through that area, you'll see that where it is just a specific tennis court type thing, we get a lot of traffic through that. A lot of the kids go through there, they play in through the park. So I would really like to see it. I'm glad that we've gone with the LED. I'm glad we've gone with this particular system. I think this is, as Alderman Camo said, it's been at Labine, so we know that it works. It's not going to be the first time we're trying it, and it would be nice to see, even at all the other parks. So, Brian, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Klee.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we have wastewater. Item A, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the user warrants as presented.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the contract with Northeast Earth Mechanics LLC of Pittsfield, New Hampshire, in amount not to exceed $6,181,612.50 for construction of the dry well upgrade project. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, Fund SRF loan, activity dry well upgrade.
And Mr. Boucher is here.
Thank you. Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. So the dry well upgrade consists of replacing large piping in our main control building. It's 2 levels of piping. There's also a section of force main that's on the ground. The piping ranges from 36-inch piping up to 42-inch piping. Along with this is also the replacement of some valves, all being replaced due to age and wear. We put out a bid. Northeast Mechanics was the low bidder on this project, and they are within 7% of the engineer's estimate. They looked at the qualifications. Wright Pierce had looked at the qualifications and their references, and everything checked out. So we'd like to use Northeast Mechanics as the contractor for the project.
Comments or questions? Commissioner Shoneman.
When I first joined the Board of Public Works 3-odd years ago, Commissioner Pappas was kind enough to tell me that what we see coming from wastewater as far as funding requests would make me blink. This is making me blink. This is an awful lot of money. Can you give me a better idea of what this is? You know, is this a major part of wastewater's function? Or why is this so much money?
Yes, I could explain the reasons for some of this cost. The main facility can receive up to 50 million gallons a day. This project is expected, the major part of the project is expected to last 10 months. During that time, all that flow has to be diverted from this building, so it can't go through these pipes. So all the flow in the city goes through these pipes and gets pumped up to ground level so it can be treated. So we have to bypass that through our wet weather facility, but it can't fully go through the wet weather facility, so another bypass piping above ground has to be created to bypass it into the original process just after the main building. So that takes a lot of effort there. That's the majority of the cost. The other part is everything has to be lowered through a small trap, all these large pipes, and welded in place. And some of the piping, that section that's underground has to be done with machinery that can coat things underground from one building to another. So that's the majority of the cost.
So you have to make a kind of a backup system
Correct.
to send all the flow from the entire city to another place
That's correct.
through another system while you're building or replacing the usual system.
That's correct.
And this is mostly labor, this is mostly parts, this is...
It's both. It's, yeah, all the piping, like I said, it's large piping. There is motor-operated valves involved. All these valves and their check valves, their plug valves are very expensive. Material cost now is quite expensive.
And you knew this was coming.
Yeah, it was part of our 20-year plan. So it was, you know, put into that as a phase 1 project. Part of, well, before the phase 1 project, but part of the 20-year plan.
All right?
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next next item, C, Commissioner Moriarty.
I move to approve the contract with Wright Pierce of Thompson, Maine, in an amount not to exceed $601,000 for construction administration services for the dry well upgrades project. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund SRF Loan Activity Dry Well Upgrades.
Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. Wright Pierce was the engineer involved in the 20-year study. Also, they did the preliminary engineering work on this. We'd like to continue using their services throughout the oversight of the construction project because of the complexity of it. I didn't mention, but this project is, the major part of the project is due to start in October of next year. But there are some elements that'll start earlier, some of the submittals and that. We have to do this project during drier weather. So October would be the best time to start. But Wright Pierce has worked well with us. We've got a good reputation with them. We'd like to continue using their services for the construction oversight. They'll have to be close oversight just because of the bypass aspect of this. And be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody? Commissioner Moriarty.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just can't recall, the SRF, what is that, the State
Revolving
Revolving
Fund.
Fund? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Next communication, or next item is item D, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the contract with R.H. White Construction Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $65,000 for the lime silo removal project. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater, Fund Wastewater Activity Lime Silo Removal.
Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. The lime silo is an old process that still sits on the wastewater site. It was used back in the 70s, 80s, hasn't been used since. It just sits and rots, so it's a large metal silo. It sits cradled next to our main building. It's seen age, we'll never use it again, but the rot and the cracks in the foundation of it, it sits on some pillars, is concerning. We don't want it to fall into our building, but by removing it, we'll also have real estate for future processes to be put in. RH White we submitted out to 5 different contractors in the area that specialize in removal of this, and RH White is the one that submitted the bid. It did come out and under our estimated estimate, engineer's estimate. So we'd like to use them to do the construction or demo of this silo. Happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We now have the Parks and Recreation Department. Item A, Commissioner Moriarty.
The motion is to approve the contract with portable toilet rentals with United Site Services of Westboro, Mass. For a 2-year term with an annual cost of $58,796. Funding for the contract will be through Department 177 Park and Recreation Fund, General and Trust, account classification 54 Property Services.
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Conan?
Good afternoon, everyone. Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. This contract is to provide portable restrooms throughout our parks. It's $187 a unit per month, and an ADA unit costs $237 per month. This contract was advertised through the purchasing department. A bid was sent out to 7 vendors and was advertised through the bid express system as well. 1 bid was received. And currently, we seasonally provide 36 units throughout various different parks, usually from April to November. We do have 6 units that stay out year-round. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this if there are any.
Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Next, item B, Commissioner Schoeneman.
I move to approve the purchase of a 2023 Toro Procore 1298 for a price of $59,502.05 from Turf Products of Enfield, Connecticut, pursuant to the Sourcewell contract number 18696-CEC. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund Surf Activity Surf.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. This is a aerifier. They're used to alleviate soil compaction. Aerification is really an essential cultural practice when it comes to maintaining high-quality turf. This is a PTO-driven aerifier, which is far superior to what we have right now. We have something that you would tow behind. It's only capable of really giving us a core pull every about 6 inches. This could give us a hole about every 1.5 inches. So it's a drastic difference when it comes to alleviating the soil compaction, creating holes, which would allow us to overseed into as well. Really looking forward to getting this piece of equipment. It's going to really enhance the quality of our athletic fields. I can't state that enough, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, anybody have anything? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is item C, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the purchase of a 2023 Toro Outcross 9060 for a price of $111,815.89 pursuant to the Sourcewell contract 18696 CEC from Turf Products Corporation in Enfield, Connecticut. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund Surf Activity Surf.
Good afternoon, Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. This is a scheduled replacement for vehicle ID number 547. Currently, right now, we have a 2009 Whacker that we use down at Holman Stadium. We use it to move around different materials like loam, infield mix, warning track mix, different pieces of equipment throughout the stadium complex, especially during the season, the Silver Knights season. The requested replacement is a Toro Outcross. The reason why I want to go with the Outcross is because it's a far more versatile machine. Instead of just having a articulating small front-end loader, we're going to have something that's capable of giving us the same loader requirements and capabilities, let's say, but we're also going to have a machine that we can use for field maintenance, such as aerification, overseeding, fertilizing. It's going to make our operations down at Holman Stadium far more versatile and far more efficient. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on this if there are any.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do enjoy at times when we take a look at something and say, okay, it needs to be replaced, but sometimes we can repurpose the older vehicle. Do you see, are you going to trade it in, or could this possibly be repurposed for something not as dynamic as we need it as Holman Stadium?
Excellent question. So we are not going to be turning in this Whacker, and what I see us using it for is a lot of our smaller parks, it's hard to get in playground cushion into the playgrounds. The Whacker is a small articulating front end loader. We're going to continue to use it just for that purpose.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is item E, Commissioner Moriarty.
Mayor, actually, I think we're on item D.
Oh, sorry, item D. Commissioner Shanahan.
I move to approve the purchase of a 2023 Massey Ferguson MF6713 from Big Boy Toys LLC in New Boston, New Hampshire, pursuant to the Buy-Board National Purchasing Cooperative vendor contract number 706-23 in the amount of $132,554. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Trust, I should probably say Fund Trust Activity Cert.
Good afternoon, Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. This is a scheduled replacement for vehicle number 541. This tractor will be used by our department to accomplish many different maintenance aspects, roadside mowing. We use this also for hazardous tree removal when a tree comes down on the road. We could also use it for fertilizing, cultural practices on our fields, and to also use at Greeley Park when we rototill the garden. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this if there are any.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. Superintendent, I don't recognize that vendor. Have we used them before, the Big Boy Toys?
So no, they're out of New Boston, New Hampshire, and they have a store down in Connecticut as well. They're a Massey Ferguson dealer. We've bought a lot of John Deere in the past, so no, we have not bought a tractor off of them as far as I know, Commissioner Moriarty.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Can you explain the Buy-Board National Purchasing Cooperative? What
So
that
that's
is?
pretty much it's just like Sourcewell. I don't know if you can help me out with this, Mrs. O'Connor, but
This is a similar type of thing as the Sourcewell and through like similar type of state bids where they work through a buying cooperative and end up do the research for us at pricing.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item E now, Commissioner Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the purchase of a 2023 light structure system with total light control, TLC for LED technology, pursuant to the Sourcewell contract number 07619 MSL in the amount of $207,000 at $28. $207. Was that right? $207.28 Funding will be through Department 177, Park and Recreation, Fund Trust, Account 71, Equipment.
Good afternoon, Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. The current lights at Sergeant Ave are extremely old. The wooden joists have started to rot away so much that the lights are actually pulling away from the poles. So I want to say thank you to Alderman Clee and Alderman Como for helping us get this through and making this a possibility. I think it's well overdue. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this if there are any.
Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Now we're on to the engineering department. Item A, Commissioner Schoeneman.
I move to approve the sewer service permits and fees as submitted.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the poll license petitions as listed in the staff report.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item C, Commissioner Schoeneman.
I move to approve a drain layers license for Mountain Shade LLC of Jaffrey, New Hampshire, in accordance with Nashua City Code 255-19, issuance of drain layers license, and authorize the Division of Public Works to temporarily suspend the license if work is found to be unsatisfactory during the initial 6-month probationary period.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item D, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve change order number 2 for the 2023 paving program, contract 1 to Continental Paving, Inc. of Londonderry, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $200,000. Funding through Department 160, Admin Engineering, Fund Bond, Activity Paving.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Hudson, City Engineer. When we first put out the paving contract for Contract 1, which primarily includes Main Street, we stopped work short of the bridge. Since that time, we've engaged CSX, and they've agreed to replace the Main Street rail crossing, which is long overdue, and I'm sure everybody's happy to hear. So given that they are planning to do that work, we didn't want to leave a gap between the Main Street work we were doing and there. So this proposal is to modify the contract to extend the paving up to the rail crossing. And then in future years, we look to go further north and south and that sort of thing. We are bringing this for you today, and we put this on the agenda. We are seeking to expedite contracting through an emergency approval so that the work can be scheduled. The city will actually save money versus having them go away and come back later and have to remobilize. As it stands right now, we're planning to pave, right now Main Street has base paving, but we're planning to do the final coat of paving and including this work all the way to the rail crossing. That's planned to happen on the 30th. The rail crossing improvement itself is planned to happen this Sunday, 24th. We are going to be doing a full closure of the Main Street Bridge on the 24th, so I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. When the railroad starts working, they're going to start working about 6 a.m. on Sunday. They're going to keep working till they're done. We anticipate that'll be probably Monday morning, early Monday morning when they're finishing up. We have posted message boards with notices noting that there'll be a road closure through 1 p.m. That's just to account in case we have any issues that delay the completion. So that's kind of a lot there, but I do hope you support the proposed amendment here, change order to extend the paving to the rail crossing. I'm happy to address any questions.
Commissioner Schoeneman.
Hooray. Finally.
Finally, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I move we second that. All right. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item E, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve change order 1 to the 2023 sewer rehabilitation program, contract 3 with RWC Enterprises of Nashua, New Hampshire, in the amount not to exceed $245,000. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund bond, activity sewer infrastructure improvements.
Dan Hudson, City Engineer. So we had secured RWC for a contract to do some sewer rehabilitation work. Again, this is dig work. We do a lot of lining, but this is actually where we have to dig up pipes and replace them because of their condition. Since that initial contract award, we've identified additional locations that work needs to be done. And so we bring before you this change order to add that work to their contract. Be happy to address any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item F, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve the engineering services contract amendment number 2 with CMA Engineers, Inc. of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, in the amount not to exceed $42,000 for the design and management of the Nashua Heritage Rail Trail East project. Funding through Department 180 Community Development Fund, Grant and Capital, Activity, NHDOT, Heritage Rail Trail.
Dan Hudson, City Engineer. So the Heritage Rail Trail project, the design of that is underway. That will extend the rail trail along the former rail corridor from Main Street to the east past Henry Hanger. The project contemplated the work being done without any right-of-way impacts or easements, and that has proven to be not possible. This amendment will enable the design engineer to help us with the easement work and the right-of-way phase that needs to be done in order to complete the design so that we can get the thing out to bid and ultimately construction. So this is a design phase. We're in preliminary design. With this amendment, we'll be able to, like I said, add that right-of-way phase into the scope of work and continue through completion. So be happy to address any questions.
Alderman O'Brien.
Am I correct that it says here to extend it to Denton Street? But this is the line that runs behind the Crown Hill Station, correct? The east.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And you looked at the bridge and everything
the
too?
East Hollis Station.
Yeah, the East
Yeah,
Hollis Street
yes.
Station. There is a railroad bridge that goes over Commercial, and I just wondered that's...
Yeah, part of the scope of work is to rehabilitate that bridge.
Okay.
But yes, we will be working behind that fire station.
And question number 2, follow-up, if I may. You did discuss with the fire department, because that is part of their backyard, unfortunately. But,
Yes, we have, although we will continue to coordinate with them through the final details, which we are not finalized yet, but will be as part of this design work.
Good, outstanding, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, item G, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to consider the hardship request to excavate for drainage installation on LaFrance Avenue.
So Dan Hudson, City Engineer, this is actually a request of the department here. We have a resident at 25 LaFrance that has some drainage issues they've been suffering for a while. Roads in moratorium, so we had delayed that work. We're planning to delay that work until the moratorium was up. But as luck would have it, their neighbor at 27 LaFrance had an emergency sewer issue, and that we had a sewer repair had to be made there. So what we're requesting is to do the drainage work we need to do, which is going to be installing a leach and catch basin, but it's at the edge of the road, and we'll probably cut into the road a little bit. And then we can do the moratorium restoration through the whole area so that things will be restored to a better condition than they would be if we waited till the end of the moratorium and then restored it then. Obviously the emergency sewer repair had happened, but we didn't just want to piggyback off of that without bringing this to the board for approval, because this is a different item of work in that same area. So that's the request. I'd be happy to address any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, item H, Commissioner Moriarty.
The motion is to consider the hardship request from Hayner Swenson, Inc. on behalf of Buckley's Amherst LLC to excavate in Amherst Street to install sewer service at 546 Amherst Street, Lot H 178.
Dan Hudson, city engineer, we have representatives here, so I'd just turn this over to them if that's suitable to the board.
Want to come on up?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Brad Westgate. I'm a lawyer at Weiner Bennett, 402 Amherst Street in Nashua, and representing Buckley Amherst LLC. Tom Zajac of Hayner Swanson is with me as well. He's the project engineer, and Ian Buckley of Buckley's is sitting in the audience. Just a little bit of background, hand over to Tom to just touch on the project, and then come back. I'll just talk about the hardship standard a little bit. So Buckley Amherst LLC was created by Michael Buckley to purchase the former Southern New Hampshire University building at 546 Amherst Street. Closed on that purchase in March of 2022. Shortly before that, we had been before the planning board with Tom as the lead to obtain site plan approval for a new restaurant. It's a full renovation of the site and of this building to create a restaurant at that site. After the property was purchased, the Buckleys have been engaged with their architects and engineers to create a pretty detailed and substantial plan and specifications set for this renovation. Last August, just this past month, we did an administrative approval to a few modifications to the site plan. So the application before you is to obtain permission to open up Amherst Street in front of the building to tie the sewer service to the sewer main. We're fortunate that the sewer main is on the same side of Amherst Street, on the eastbound side, as the restaurant, as this site, because I'm sure the commission knows that this building's been vacant for a good number of years. So if I can turn over to Tom for a moment to walk you through the actual work contemplated for the sewer tie-in, and then I'll just talk briefly after that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Brad. For the record, my name is Tom Zajac. I'm a civil engineer with Hayner Swanson, 3 Congress Street. Here in Nashua, we have the good fortune of representing the Buckley's team on the project that Brad talked about, long vacant site. We've got a couple approvals, a couple extensions to kind of get us to where we're at today. They've got a shovel-ready project, hopefully to get in the ground shortly this fall, with a hopeful an opening next spring, maybe mid-May, for this new restaurant to be called the Lost Cowboy. It's a kind of an American Western theme. When we went through this the first time, went through the planning board, the goal was to get the approval for the use so they could purchase the land, and they really weren't planning on building it right away until we're here today. We worked with Mr. Hudson and the engineering team as best we could to figure out the existing sewer services. There weren't a lot of records at the time. We didn't want to go out into Amherst Street digging around because, of course, it was just paved in July of 2019. There were no records of the existing service. Since that time, we were able to creatively get video from inside one of the floor drains to go out to the manhole. It's a 5-inch AC pipe, asbestos concrete pipe from the 70s. The video shows it in really poor shape. There's a break in one of the joints. So for all the money they're putting into the building, of course, we want to upgrade the sewer service, put in the right infrastructure. A 6-inch size would be the very minimum that engineering, DES would accept for this use. A 382-seat restaurant along with a micro pub component, we need at least an 8-inch service. The existing sewer is right on our side of the street in the closest eastbound lane. We've got about 10, 12 feet to go in the road in terms of our cut. But of course, since the road is under moratorium, what our application represents is to make that connection with the new 8-inch service this fall, put in a temporary patch, allow that to settle over the winter time, and then come back in the springtime and do the full curb-to-curb moratorium. We've got a median here, so we're doing the eastbound lane. In terms of hardship request, the moratorium expires in July of 2024. As Mr. Hudson, and I know I've made this argument before in terms of the hardship, we're so late in the game here that we think that this restoration would actually result in a better condition long-term than waiting a couple more months until July. So I thank you for the opportunity to present the application. I'll turn it back over to Brad.
Thank you, Tom. So relative to hardship, as Tom has noted, the hardship is the situation that's presently existing, the age of the pipe, the size of the pipe, the need to upgrade it. Just a little background, this, based on the assessor's record, a building was first built on this site, I think in 1965. There was some expansions to that building. I believe it had automotive, motorcycle use way back, a little before my time. Not in age, but in being a Nashville. Of course, it has been vacant for a good number of years now. Any repurposing, full renovations, redos of properties on Amherst Street are typically going to involve upgrading utility structures, especially when the historic uses are just not the type that are going to be made out there in the future. So even without a new restaurant, as I've discussed with Tom, at least a likely rehabilitation of this existing pipe, even on a modest use, and even a possible replacement there would be necessary. So the restaurant use, of course, needs the new pipe, needs the 8-inch capacity, as Tom has described. Obviously, the project will put a vacant property into good use, implements the planning board's the desires and the Buckley's vision for this site as approved. We would think the modest cut to undertake this work in the fall and then do the overlay, as Tom described, in the spring is a pretty good timing mechanism leading up to the end of the moratorium. So we respectfully request permission to make the cut, to be able to do it this fall, as Tom's described. And we thank you for your time, of course, and happy to answer questions.
Anyone? Commissioner Shonen.
So if I understand right, the actual cut to do the sewer replacement is just going to be in the farthest eastbound lane. Is that right? And then the patch goes not curb to curb, but curb to median.
Yes, correct. So on that eastbound sign, you've got two lanes, travel lanes, and a fairly wide shoulder. So that sewer manhole sits within that closest eastbound lane, or the right eastbound lane, closest to the building. So the patch would include the shoulder and the eastbound lane, and then, of course, the full pavement restoration would go all the way to the center median.
So there's still going to be able to be traffic flow for the bulk of the construction. And what about when they have to put down the patch to the median? How are they going to handle traffic flow?
Well, typically, they would submit a traffic control plan to the engineering department, and you would kind of do it in two different applications. You would need to keep at least one lane open.
Right. Okay. So they'll patch one lane, close the other, and then patch that. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Once the restaurant is open, how many people do you think will be employed there?
Ian Buckley speaking for the record.
Thank you, Brad. Can you 60 and 70? We need you to sit at the table.
Yeah, come on up.
Ian Buckley with Buckley Amherst LLC for the record. Mayor, we're hoping between 60 and 70 between the restaurant and the small brewery side.
Okay, great. All right, anyone else? Alderman O'Brien.
Yeah, you said a shovel-ready project, but it's got to be done before the snow, as far as you know, and so there's no concerns there.
Sure. Tom Zajac, Hayner Swanson. Yes, the plan would be upon approval by this board of the sewer or the moratorium impact, they would move right away to make that connection this fall. I think we have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for next week.
So if we expedite this, it's
Correct, yeah. The sewer.
no winter concerns.
All the work within the right-of-way would take place this fall.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Next is the information, is item I, an informational item. So we will go on then to administration. Item A, Commissioner Shonen.
I move to approve and recommend to the Board of Aldermen the collective bargaining agreement between the Board of Public Works of the City of Nashua, New Hampshire, and the Local 365, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, for the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2028.
Mr. Patrician?
Yeah, Andy Patrician, Assistant Director, Public Works. We did start negotiations back in February. They actually went pretty well this year. We were able to come up with something pretty quick. The last contract expired in July 1st, 2023, so I don't know if you had time to review it. So it's 4% in 2023, 4% in 2024, 3% in 2025, 2% in 2026, and then 2% in 2027. The next change that we had was we wanted to increase the hourly wage for the mechanics and the welder to try to get them up with industry standards. So we proposed a $2 an hour raise to that position. And also beginning July 1st, 2023, we actually, just because of the way the automotive, the trucking and everything is growing with the emission stuff and the electronics and everything, we're going to give them $1,000 per year for a tool stipend, which, you know, doesn't buy them much. A set of wrenches on, you know, a set of good wrenches on that truck, you know, just 5 or 6 wrenches or a pair of pliers. I mean, it's, you know, $200 or $300, if not more. I mean, because they buy quality equipment. So we proposed that, and then I thought there was one more thing. So in consideration, you know, the city will we're going to rescind a 3-day suspension that we gave an employee and give them that back, and the union will withdraw all pending grievances, arbitrations, and unfair labor practice. So everything goes away with the signing of this contract. And I'll take any questions if you have them.
Any questions, comments?
Yes,
Commissioner Moriarty.
could you explain that again, that 3-day suspension? I can't remember what the issue was there.
There was the employee, it was during a storm and had an issue, and we ended up writing him up for it, and then they grieved it, and they wanted to send that to arbitration. So that's been an ongoing thing for the past couple of years, ever since COVID started.
No, but you're saying we're changing the contract, we're getting rid of the 3-day suspension, is that what you said?
Yes, that's not part of the contract, that's just something that we agreed to.
Okay.
To get to where we are. So that was one thing that we were agreeing to.
Got it.
Plus the,
That's fine.
you know,
I
the
understand.
arbitrations and everything else.
Yep.
And they agreed to drop all agreements.
Right.
Which there are quite a few, as I recall.
Yes, there was 4 that they wanted to take to arbitration, I believe, and then the 2 unfair labor practices. So that's huge if this all works. And the union did ratify this. They did approve it, I think 49 to 9. So.
Commissioner Schoeneman.
So when we discussed this earlier in the year, it was March or quite a ways back, we discussed this. This is essentially unchanged from what was proposed back then. Is that right? It sounds like it. The
Yeah, I think
percentage increases are the same as were discussed earlier in the.
Yes, with the board.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the same stuff we talked about. The $2 for mechanics, the you know, the tool stipend, that was all part of it, and then, you know, the wages.
Okay. So nothing new, nothing different since we discussed it as a group, the board and all the superintendents?
Nope, just these are the only changes to the contract. All the other language is staying the same.
Okay, great.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Commissioners' comments. Do any commissioners wish to make comments? If not, we'll go to personnel. Item A, Commissioner Moriarty.
I move to approve and unseal the non-public minutes for personnel from the Board of Public Works meeting of August 24th, 2023.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And now we have a non-public session. Commissioner Moriarty.
I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A3, Roman numeral 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
That needs to be a roll call, right?
Yes.
All right, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Motion passes, so we will go into non-public session. All right, we're going to go back into public session now. So Commissioner Moriarty.
I move by roll call to seal the minutes of the Board of Public Works Personnel non-public meeting of September 21st, 2023, until such time as the majority of the board votes that the purpose of the confidentiality would no longer be served.
Mayor Donches?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
All right. Now, do we have a director's report?
We have an assistant director's report today.
All right, let's do that then.
Okay, so the first slide is the dedication of name ceremony up in Concord. It was on the 12th for Public Works employees who had passed away. There is a memorial up there for them. CSX will, I know we spoke about this, CSX will be replacing the railroad crossing on Main Street on 924 and 925. There will be detours posted, just try to avoid the areas, as much as possible. This slide is Continental, finishing up some ADA ramps at Medical Center Drive ahead of final paving. This is prep work from Continental, removing the brick crosswalks on Main Street. That's going to be replaced with the XD pattern. Oh, sorry. That was that one, the milling. The next slide is the milling of Main Street that occurred on September 11th. This was a very well-attended event, the 2023 Gate City Brewfest. New roller slide was installed at Roby Park.
Oh, yeah, we had a chance to try that out. Well, my son did.
You did,
Yeah.
nice, very nice.
How'd it go?
Great, the kids were loving it.
This is the newly installed playground at St. Andrews Park, which was well overdue. Had the same equipment in there back when I started, so that was very nice. We had a dedication yesterday over at the new dock at Sandy Pond. People are really enjoying it, fishing off it, and they run their little motorized boats in there. So this is the street department work up at Bicentennial School, installing new tip downs. This is another sidewalk that the street department replaced at 86 Concord Street. Yeah, I don't know what that is. There was also mill and fill to preserve the road and road conditions on Taylor Street. So solid waste, the Four Hills landfill will be closed Monday, October 9th for Indigenous People Day. All curbside collection will be delayed by 1 day. Curbside collection and oversized items and appliances will be ending for the season. The last date to request a pickup will be October 21st, and collections will end on Friday, October 27th. Nashua Goes Back to School event, the solid waste department table at the Nashua Goes Back to School event. The next household hazardous waste collection event will be held on Saturday, October 7th, from 8 a.m. to noon at 25 Crown Street. 112 households participated in the August collection event. This is wastewater working on a manhole cover. The manhole cover didn't fit well, so there was a lot of vibration, a lot of noise. So they worked on getting that quieted down. This is a replacement of bearings on a pump at wastewater. It's a decent sized pump. Clearing access to stormwater outfalls. We had summer laborers out there doing that. This is the redundancy for the heat exchanger that got installed. I think we've talked about that numerous times. So it's good that that's getting done. River sampling. The wastewater facility has a twice a year requirement for toxicity testing, so we had that done. This was debris removal from the storm water pipes, and this was at, I believe this was the September 11th rainstorms that we had. Just a lot of issues that day, and that's it.
All right, any questions or comments?
Very good.
I just want to double check the dates. So the repairs that CSX is doing on Main Street start Sunday at 6 a.m.
Yes.
and are probably going to go to Monday evening.
Yeah, it's gonna be, they excavate, they'll do their saw cuts and they take the whole thing out. I believe it's 120 feet of track. So it's a big undertaking to do that.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to confirm that. date
They
on
say that it's
Sunday.
going to be a Cadillac grade crossing.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly?
Well,
You
the
can drive
best
your
they have
Cadillac
or
without-
whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna be very impressive. It's gonna be
That's what
long overdue.
They're not doing any upgrades to, gates or lights or putting anything like that in?
No, we don't have gates and that type of stuff on Main Street, so no, nothing with that. But with this whole job, it's gonna be amazing. I just can't. It's been a long time coming.
A long time coming, yeah.
Great.
All right, Commissioner Moriarty,
Mayor, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes and the meeting of the Board of Public Works is adjourned at 5:01 PM.